So let's get in now to the Rocket Mortgage Classic here. I want to talk a little bit about Detroit Golf Club because just like TPC River Highlands, this is a course that we know a lot about. These guys play Detroit a lot. It's a great course. They love playing up here. So Nate, tell us a little bit about what we should be looking out for at Detroit. What's the recipe for success on this course?
So, this course it's pretty much a pretty classic course. Donald Ross design. They're always going to be, sort of strategic landing points on the green. Typically, his greens are a little bit small, sort of really sort of favor precision. So that's sort of the baseline when you're just thinking about Donald Ross courses. But Detroit Golf Club is, it's not like overly long. It's 7,300, close to 7,400 yards. It's par 72. 4 par fives, 4 par threes, pretty standard sort of makeup in terms of that. The big thing about Detroit Golf Club and just sort of this tournament is that the fairways are pretty wide, a lot wider than normal on tour. And the consequence of having these fairly wide fairways is that guys typically exceed their average driving distance on this course. So it plays like effectively quite a bit shorter. Just because these guys aren't afraid to just really just try and tear one off the tee. So in terms of, this being a bomber friendly course, I wouldn't say yes, and I wouldn't say no. I would say that it's probably, anyone can do it. I mean, Nate Lashley is certainly not like a bomber. He won in 2019, but then you have Bryson, Davis, and Finau who are all bombers. So I think that this course can accommodate some different types of winners. It's just been pretty bomber heavy lately, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's something that I would like put my analysis on in a big way. It's really just about catching a hot putter and being good with your short irons. I think has more to do with it than, just being able to rip it off the tee.
I do think ripping it off the tee is important here. I understand where you're coming from. In the iron game, I'm not looking at approach or anything like that. I think that with this course, even though you have the long fairways, to me, it feels like the bombers can just take advantage of it more so than anyone else. Bryson averaged like 350 yards off here when he won off the tee. You don't have to worry about the fairways. So even though the course is long, the ball carries. The par fours are sort of reachable if you can hit it long off the tee. So to me, I'm looking at guys who can really rip it. Not everybody on my card can rip it, but a lot of them can. And guys who are hot with the putter. If you're not putting if you're strokes gained putting over 80 or 100, I'm just not looking at you, because these Donald Ross courses, the greens are smaller, like you said, they can be a little tricky. You really have to catch a hot putter. Last year, though, tee to green was one of the more important stats. So that's kind of another thing I'm looking at. Like tee to green was, I don't know. I mean, much more important than putting in that way. So we'll see. I am looking at tee to green. I'm looking at off the tee, strokes gains off the tee, looking at strokes gains putting. Those are the 3 strokes gains I'm looking at. I like total driving efficiency a little bit more than just total driving. I would just prefer that they be pretty efficient off the tee. I still want guys who hit it pretty far, but that's one thing I'm looking at. Greens in regulation, I think, is an important stat this week. Birdie or better percentage, just because it can give you an idea of how someone's putting. So I don't always love strokes gained putting because it doesn't always give you a great idea of like how aggressive they're being. You can be a good strokes gained putter and still be putting pretty conservatively. And I do think that you're going to have to be pretty aggressive on these greens. You're going to at least having to have the confidence. And then I like the par 4 scoring average stat, because even though there's not a ton of par 4s, these par 4s play short, I think. Even though they're long, they play kind of short. So why not go with that? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Also, I've got some guys who have played this tournament a couple 4 or 5 years in a row and have played well. So there's not a lot of people on, a lot of golfers that don't play Detroit well that I like. I mean, most of these guys have played well in this tournament in the last couple years. Because it's a tournament that we have a lot of data on, I just feel like that's useful. Whereas like RBC Canada, LACC, you just don't have the data for that. You might as well take advantage of it when you do. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. They switched out one hole. So they play the North course here, but they're going to play one hole in the South course. Also, 2 holes were vandalized at some point this year. And so the tour has been working feverishly to fix the vandalism. I mean, I know it's ready, but back in April, someone vandalized, I think holes 11 and 12. So I guess that could be something that you hear on television. It's not anything to do with betting, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
But we'll see. So.